There comes a moment in life when you stop before something utterly ordinary. An egg in your kitchen, a falling leaf, the steam rising from your coffee. And suddenly, without warning, the entire universe rearranges itself within you. Clarice Lispector knew this. She discovered that the greatest revelations arrive not dressed in complexity, but wrapped in the most disconcerting simplicity. Welcome to a glimpse of the real, the universe within you, where we explore the glimpses of reality that transform destinies through the poetic and profound gaze of great masters of consciousness. Today we dive into the EG, the epiphany of simplicity that changes destinies, a journey through Clarice's most disturbing discovery, that we seek elaborate answers when the truth whispers through the banal, the simple, what has always been there waiting for our true gaze. If you've made it this far, it's because something within you recognizes this restlessness, this feeling that we've overcomplicated what should be simple, that we've lost the essential amidst the excess of information, methods, and theories that promise transformation, but increasingly distance us from ourselves. Jung said that archetypal symbols speak directly to the unconscious, bypassing all our mental resistance. And the egg, this primordial symbol, carries within itself all the wisdom about gestation, potential, and the silent miracle of life emerging from the seemingly inert. In the next few minutes, you'll discover why your greatest epiphanies may be hidden in the most everyday gestures, how neuroscience explains why simple insights cause more profound changes than complex theories, and most importantly, how to apply Lispector's formula for transformation that whispers, mindfulness plus total acceptance equals spontaneous revelation. Have you ever felt this exhaustion? This feeling of constantly searching, reading, and consuming information about personal development, spirituality, and self-knowledge? But inside you feel the same restlessness, the same feeling that something essential keeps slipping through your fingers, as if all this complexity were just another sophisticated way of avoiding truly connecting with yourself. We live in an age where we've transformed the inner search into yet another efficiency project. We accumulate techniques, methods, and elaborate rituals, as if salvation lay in the next discovery, the next book, the next revolutionary practice. And Clarice, with her cutting sensitivity, knew that this flight into complexity is merely fear in disguise, the fear of discovering that perhaps everything we need is already here, too simple to be appreciated, too obvious to be perceived. She wrote, "I have to get used to having nothing, and then I will have everything." But what does it mean to have everything through nothing? It means discovering that the apparent emptiness of a simple moment contains more substance than years of feverish searching. It means recognizing that our obsession with elaborate solutions is often just disguised resistance to what is truly transformative, the ability to be fully present with what is. Modern neuroscience confirms something Clarice intuited. Our brains are programmed to seek complexity as a way to avoid the vulnerability of the present moment. When Dr. Andrew Newberg studies contemplative states through neuroimaging, he discovers that moments of greatest brain transformation occur precisely when we stop trying to understand and begin simply being with what is before us. But here's the paradox that few can overcome. Accepting simplicity requires infinitely greater courage than seeking complexity. Because when you stand before an egg, as Clarice stood before a cockroach, an apple, a glass of water, you can no longer hide behind theories, methods, or explanations. You stand naked before the pure mystery of existence. And this nakedness is more frightening than any complex philosophical treatise. What I'm going to share with you today will completely change your relationship with inner seeking, because together we'll discover that your next moments of revelation aren't waiting in a sophisticated practice or a revolutionary intellectual discovery. They're whispering through the ordinary that you've been ignoring, asking only that you stop complicating things and finally start seeing. Consider for a moment how we organize our inner search. We have meditation apps with dozens of different techniques, entire libraries on personal development, workshops that promise to awaken dormant abilities through increasingly sophisticated methods. And amidst all this abundance of resources, a disturbing question remains. Why do we continue to feel like something fundamental is eluding us? Clarice discovered something disturbing about our human nature. We create complexity as a way to avoid intimacy with our own existence. When she wrote about a simple orange, she wasn't writing literature. She was revealing how our minds refuse to be still long enough to realize that all the wisdom of the universe may be pulsating there, at that moment, in that seemingly insignificant object before us. Neuroscientist Lisa Miller, in her research on spirituality and the brain, discovered that our minds possess a sophisticated defense mechanism. When we approach truths that can profoundly transform us, we automatically create layers of intellectual complexity to maintain a safe distance. It's as if we prefer to think about water rather than feel thirsty, as if we prefer to theorize about love rather than allow ourselves to be touched by it. Here's something modern science has discovered that Clarice intuited. The human brain transforms more rapidly through direct experiences of simplicity than through complex intellectual understanding. When Dr. Richard Davidson studies the effects of contemplation on the brain, he observes that moments of mindfulness directed at simple objects activate neural networks associated with neuroplasticity more intensely than elaborate mental exercises. Why? Because simplicity bypasses our cognitive defenses. When you're fully present with an egg, its texture, its temperature, its perfect shape, your analytical mind can't create complex stories about what you're experiencing. You're simply there, present, vulnerable, open to what is. And in this openness, something extraordinary happens. You begin to realize that you're not separate from what you're observing. The world feels best to me in fragments, Clarice wrote. And in these fragments, an egg breaking, a cockroach crossing the floor, the moment before sleep, she found what philosophers had spent centuries trying to explain through complex treatises. It wasn't a technique she applied. It was a quality of presence she cultivated, an ability to let herself be touched by the obvious until it revealed its extraordinary nature. Jung would say that Clarice had direct access to archetypes through everyday life. The egg was not just an egg in her hands. It was the primordial symbol of unmanifested potential, of life pulsating in a state of latency, of the silent promise that within every apparent simplicity lies infinite complexity. But she arrived at this perception not through intellectual analysis, but through pure presence. How do you recognize when you're running away from the simplicity that heals? First sign, you feel you need more information before you can begin any inner practice. Second, your spiritual practices have become mental checklists instead of moments of genuine encounter. Third, you constantly seek new methods because the previous ones stopped working, when in fact, you've stopped allowing yourself to be touched by them. Clarice knew that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, but our culture has taught us the opposite. That sophistication means complication, that depth means difficulty, that true transformation must be achieved through intense intellectual effort. And so we lose touch with the wisdom that resides in the pause, in the silence, in the moment when we stop trying to understand and begin simply to be. The path back to transformative simplicity begins with a revolutionary act, stopping. Not stopping to think about stopping, not stopping to meditate on the pause, but stopping as you would if someone shouted your name on the street, completely, instantly, without mental elaboration. And in that stopping, choose an ordinary object within your reach and allow it to exist in your consciousness without you needing to do anything with it, understand it, or transform it into something special. It is in this apparent simplicity that the silent revolution begins that can reshape your entire destiny. And now we'll find out how. One of Clarice's most disconcerting discoveries was realizing that the further we seek the sacred, the more it hides. We develop an airport spirituality, always going somewhere, always seeking transcendental experiences in distant retreats, exotic techniques, inaccessible masters. And while our minds travel through these sophisticated dimensions, the sacred is here, pulsating in the egg you're about to eat for breakfast, in the breath that sustains this moment, in the weight of your body in the chair. Clarice wrote, "I think what moves me most is that people are so simple, and I am complicated, searching for what is right under my nose." This confession reveals something profound about our condition. We create layers of spiritual seeking as a way to avoid directly encountering the mystery that inhabits the ordinary. It is more comfortable to seek God on a distant mountain than to recognize Him in the present moment, because the present moment demands of us a presence that can transform everything. Jung discovered that certain symbols speak directly to the collective unconscious, activating deep layers of wisdom that transcend our personal experience. The egg is one of these primordial symbols. It spans cultures, religions, and mythologies, always representing the same mystery: life in potential, the cosmos before creation. The silent promise that within every apparent simplicity lies an infinity waiting to manifest. But here's what Jung knew that our culture has forgotten. These symbols don't work through intellectual understanding. They work through direct contact, through simple contemplation, through allowing oneself to be touched by their presence without needing to translate them into mental concepts. When Clarice held an egg, she wasn't engaging in symbolic analysis. She was letting the archetype speak directly to her soul, bypassing all the mental elaborations. But in truth, I never photograph what was announced. I discover as I work what I wanted to say. This quote from Clarice reveals the secret of expanded perception. She didn't project meanings onto simple objects. She became so present with them that they began to reveal their hidden nature. It was as if her pure attention were a key that unlocked invisible dimensions of reality. Sacred geometry teaches us that simple forms contain infinite proportions. The egg contains the golden spiral, the golden ratio, the same mathematical relationships we find in galaxies and snails. But Clarice arrived at this perception not through geometric study, but through contemplative presence. She became so intimate with simplicity that simplicity opened up and revealed its hidden complexity. Maria Elena worked 14 hours a day at a multinational company, accumulating productivity techniques, leadership courses, and corporate mindfulness workshops. Until one day, in the midst of an anxiety attack, she stopped in front of a cup of coffee at her desk, not to drink it, not to post an inspirational photo, but simply because she couldn't move anymore. And there, contemplating the steam slowly rising from the cup, something extraordinary happened. For the first time in years, her mind stopped planning, analyzing, judging, comparing. She was simply present in that moment with that steam, with that absolute simplicity. And in that presence, a clear realization formed. She had spent decades chasing success, but she had never stopped to ask if this was truly the success she desired. 2 months later, Maria Elena resigned. Today, she teaches art to children in a small rural town. It wasn't an impulsive decision. It was the natural consequence of an insight that emerged from simple contemplation. The steam from a cup of coffee did what years of executive coaching couldn't. It connected her with her core truth. Here's a practice directly inspired by Clarice's contemplative approach. Choose an ordinary object within your reach right now. It could be a pen, a key, a sheet of paper, anything that doesn't have any special meaning to you. Hold this object in your hands and allow it to exist in your consciousness without you having to do anything with it. Don't analyze. Don't look for hidden meanings. Don't turn this into an elaborate meditation technique. Simply allow the object to be exactly what it is while you are exactly who you are. Observe how your mind tries to create stories, memories, associations. Gently return to the simplicity of direct contact. Continue for 3 minutes. At the end, notice if anything has changed in your perception, not of the object, but of yourself in relation to the present moment. We often find that this apparent simplicity connects us with a quality of presence we had forgotten we possessed. And it is in this quality of presence that insights begin to emerge that can reorganize our entire lives. If you can access this contemplative simplicity, you have already begun to understand how Clarice transformed the ordinary into a portal of transcendence. We have a cultural fantasy about how great transformations happen. We imagine dramatic moments, intense mystical experiences, revelations that arrive like lightning bolts illuminating consciousness. And so we miss 99% of the real opportunities for transformation, which arrive whispering through subtle perceptions, gentle insights, silent understandings that emerge when we least expect them. Clarice knew that what amazes me is how the most important things happen when we're not expecting them. Life has these surprises. She discovered that the most profound changes in her life came not from dramatic experiences, but from seemingly insignificant moments when a simple realization completely reorganized her understanding of herself and existence. Lao Tzu taught that soft water beats on hard stone until it breaks through. Subtle insights work the same way. They don't break down our resistances through force, but dissolve them through gentle persistence. A small understanding of our nature, born from simple contemplation of the present moment, can have more transformative power than years of therapy or intense spiritual practices, because it bypasses our defenses and directly touches the truth we already know but pretend not to know. Bruce Lipton demonstrated that our cells respond more to environmental signals created by our perceptions than to direct genetic commands. Greg Braden expanded on this discovery by showing how subtle changes in the quality of our attention literally alter the quantum field around us, creating new possibilities for manifestation. But what does this mean practically? It means that when you change the quality of your presence with a simple object, when you actually see an egg rather than just look at it, you are altering your vibrational frequency so fundamentally that new realities begin to organize themselves around you. This isn't cheap mysticism. It's quantum physics applied to consciousness. Nuclear physicist Tom Campbell explains that our reality is a simulation of consciousness, and that small changes in the quality of observing consciousness literally alter the parameters of the simulation. When Clarice contemplated a simple object with total presence, she wasn't just changing her subjective perception, she was altering the objective possibilities available in her life experience. I write because I have nothing to do in the world. I am left over, and there is no place for me in the land of men. I write because I am desperate, and I am tired. I can no longer stand the routine of being me, and if it weren't for the constant novelty of writing, I would symbolically die every day. In this confession, Clarice reveals something essential about the now instant. It is always new, always inaugural, always capable of surprising us with possibilities our conditioned minds could never imagine. But to access this constant newness, we need to capture the moments of revelation before our analytical mind transforms them into familiar concepts. She developed a specific art, the art of preserving the purity of insights at the exact moment they emerge. As a photographer of consciousness, she learned to capture perceptions the instant they arise, before they are contaminated by interpretations, memories, and associations. And she discovered that in these pure moments lies all the wisdom necessary to reorganize an entire life. How many eggs have you held in your life? How many times have you walked from the kitchen to the living room? How many breaths have you taken without realizing it? Clarice discovered that our next great revelation probably doesn't await a new and extraordinary experience, but a banal gesture we've repeated for years without ever truly being present with it. The Zen tradition tells the story of a monk who swept the same courtyard every day for 20 years until one ordinary morning, the sound of the broom touching a stone awakened him completely. It wasn't the stone that changed, it wasn't the broom, it wasn't the sound. It was the quality of presence he brought to that familiar moment that transformed repetition into revelation. David Hawkins mapped that we live most of the time in low vibrational frequencies: fear, anger, desire. Not because our life is especially difficult, but because we have not developed sensitivity to recognize the constant invitations that existence makes to us to raise our consciousness through what is immediately available. Edward Lorenz discovered that small variations in a system's initial conditions can produce large variations in its final behavior. A butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil can cause a tornado in Texas. Our consciousness works the same way. Small changes in the quality of our attention can generate monumental transformations in our life experience. When you truly see an egg not as an object of use, not as an intellectual symbol, but as a living mystery present in this moment, you are introducing a small variation in the quality of your consciousness that can amplify into revolutionary changes in the way you relate to your entire existence. Sadhguru teaches that the only thing you can truly change is the quality of your consciousness. Everything else is a consequence. And Clarice discovered that this change in the quality of consciousness does not require complex practices or special conditions. It can happen here, now, through the simple willingness to be fully present with what is before you, allowing the ordinary to reveal its extraordinary nature. This is the silent revolution, discovering that you don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to become someone different. You don't need to master sophisticated techniques. You just need to stop running away from the simplicity that's already here, patiently waiting for you to stop complicating things and finally start seeing. There's a profound irony in the modern spiritual journey. The more we seek the transcendent, the further we move away from it. We've created a spiritual geography where the sacred always resides elsewhere, in a distant ashram, on an isolated mountain, in an ancient practice we need to learn. And while our consciousness travels through these exotic dimensions, the sacred is here, pulsing in your kitchen, whispering through the most banal gestures of your daily life. Clarice discovered something revolutionary. We don't need to sacralize the ordinary. We simply need to recognize that it is already sacred. I have the measure I designate, and this is the splendor of having a language. But I have much more in the measure I cannot designate. The sacred she found in a simple apple was not projected by her imagination. It was recognized by its presence. The difference is fundamental. Rumi wrote, "Sell your intelligence and buy perplexity." What he meant is that our intellectual search for the sacred often distances us from the ability to be touched by the mystery that is already present. When we turn spirituality into yet another self-improvement project, we lose exactly what we were looking for: the ability to find the infinite in the finite, the extraordinary in the ordinary. I write as if to save someone's life, probably my own. Clarice didn't develop a technique of presence. She developed an existential urgency to be completely here, now, with whatever was before her. It was a matter of spiritual survival, not personal improvement. Her method was so simple it was disconcerting. Stop completely. Don't stop to meditate. Don't stop to analyze. Don't stop to apply any contemplative technique. Stop as you would if you heard your name being called in a crowd. Instantly, completely, without mental elaboration. And in that stop, allow the present moment to exist in your awareness without needing to do anything with it. Thich Nhat Hanh taught that washing dishes is not just about having clean dishes. Washing dishes is about washing dishes. Clarice took this understanding even further. Holding an egg is not about breaking it, cooking it, or eating it. Holding an egg is about being fully present with the experience of holding an egg. And in this total presence, eternity and the instant reveal themselves as a single reality. Nature doesn't strive to be profound. It simply is. An egg doesn't try to be an archetypal symbol of latent potential. It simply contains life in its purest, most concentrated form. There's no effort, no spiritual performance, no attempt to impress. There's just the perfect simplicity of life being exactly what it is. Lao Tzu observed that the wise man does not act, and therefore does not fail. He does not grasp, and therefore does not lose. The egg embodies this Taoist wisdom. It does not try to manifest itself, does not force its development, does not worry about its potential. It simply is present with its own nature until the right conditions allow the life it carries to express itself naturally. When we contemplate an egg with the quality of attention Clarice cultivated, we are not searching for lessons or hidden meanings. We are learning a way of being that transcends effort, the art of being so present with our own essential nature that it can reveal itself and express itself without force, without haste, in life's perfect timing. Our culture has taught us that value is linked to complexity, so we've transformed simple practices into elaborate systems, believing that the more components a practice has, the more effective it will be. We've created meditations with complex visualizations, rituals with multiple elements, and spiritual routines that resemble engineering projects. Clarice knew that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, but our conditioned mind interprets simplicity as superficiality. We can't believe that something as simple as being fully present with an ordinary object can have truly transformative power. So we add layers, elaborate methods, and create complexities that often distance us from the essence of the practice. Padmasambhava taught, do not complicate what is naturally simple. Do not simplify what is naturally complex. Direct contemplation of the present simplicity, an egg, a breath in this moment, is naturally simple. When we try to make it complex, we lose its effectiveness. When we honor it in its simplicity, we discover that it contains all the complexity we need for our transformation. Here's a practice directly inspired by Clarice's contemplative approach. So simple you can start right now. Every day, in the midst of your normal activities, choose a minute to transform an ordinary gesture into a sacred portal. It could be holding a cup of coffee, opening a door, turning on a light, any action you normally do automatically. During this minute, bring the totality of your presence to this action, not as a spiritual exercise, not as a mindfulness technique, but as a genuine encounter with the mystery that inhabits the ordinary. Feel the weight of the cup, observe the movement of your hand. Allow this gesture to exist in your consciousness, as if it were the first time it had happened in the history of the universe. Don't look for results. Don't expect dramatic revelations. Don't turn this into just another task to accomplish. Simply allow this minute to be sacred through the quality of presence you bring to it. Over time, you'll find that these sacred minutes begin to expand, naturally transforming your relationship with all of existence through the simplest gateway, the fully inhabited present moment. We've reached the heart of Lispector's discovery. You don't need to change your life to transform it. You need to change the quality of your presence with the life you already have. This is the silent revolution that no self-help guru wants you to discover, because it would render the entire industry of personal transformation methods, techniques, and systems obsolete. Clarice wrote, No, it's not easy to write. It's as hard as breaking rocks. But sparks and splinters fly like mirrored steel. What she discovered is that true transformation doesn't happen through directed effort, but through a specific quality of attention that allows life to reveal its hidden possibilities. Like breaking rocks. You don't force the rock to open, you find the exact spot where it already wants to open and apply full presence there. Jung understood this through the concept of synchronicity. When our consciousness aligns with our essential truth, the universe conspires to create circumstances that support our evolution. But this alignment doesn't happen through elaborate visualizations or forced affirmations. It happens through the radical simplicity of being fully present with what is, allowing our perception to transform and, consequently, our external reality to reorganize. Synchronicity is a principle of non-causal connection that manifests itself through meaningful coincidences. Jung discovered that when we become receptive to the symbols that naturally emerge in our everyday experience, they begin to function as an inner compass, pointing us in life directions aligned with our deepest purpose. But here's the secret few have grasped. These symbols don't work through intellectual interpretation. They work through direct resonance. When you contemplate an egg with the total presence Clarice cultivated, you're not searching for hidden meanings. You're allowing the archetype of latent potential to speak directly to your soul, revealing possibilities of being that your conscious mind could never imagine. But the thing is, I never actually photographed what was advertised. I discovered as I worked what I wanted to say. Clarice developed a capacity that transcends common perception, the art of seeing through appearances to the essence. It wasn't a special mystical ability. It was the natural consequence of being completely present with what was before her without rushing to transform it into something useful or meaningful. When she held an egg, she didn't just see a cooking object. She saw a potential universe, a mystery of life concentrated in perfect form, a silent lesson on how to contain infinity in simplicity. But this insight didn't come through analysis. It came through intimacy. She became so present with the egg that she began to participate in its essential nature. It is said that a Zen monk spent 40 years studying sacred texts, mastering meditation techniques, and traveling to find enlightened masters. Until, already old and tired of searching, he returned to his home village and accepted a job in the kitchen of a small monastery, peeling potatoes. One morning, while peeling a potato with complete attention, not because it was a spiritual practice, but simply because it was what he needed to do at that moment, he had the clearest realization of his life. He had never been separated from the enlightenment he sought. It had always been present in the quality of awareness with which he related to every moment, every gesture, every breath. It wasn't the potato that enlightened him. It was the discovery that when we stop seeking transformation and simply begin to be fully present with what's in front of us, we discover that the transformation we sought is already happening silently through our full presence with life. Here is the practical summary of everything we discovered today. Clarice unveiled the simplest and most powerful formula for transformation. When you bring full attention to what is present, more total acceptance of what is without trying to change or improve it, spontaneous revelations emerge that reorganize your understanding of yourself and life. Mindfulness doesn't mean a meditation technique. It means being genuinely curious about what's happening right now. Total acceptance doesn't mean passivity. It means stopping fighting what is so you can clearly see what's being asked. Spontaneous revelation doesn't mean dramatic mystical experiences. It means simple insights that change everything. True transformation isn't about achievement. It's about recognition. The recognition that you are already complete, already have access to the wisdom you seek, already connected to the source that nourishes all life. And this recognition can happen right now, through the simple willingness to be fully present with an egg, a breath, this moment that has never existed before and will never exist again. We've reached the end of this journey through the simplicity that transforms destinies, but in reality, we've reached the beginning of something much greater, the discovery that you don't need to go anywhere to find what you're looking for. You don't need to become someone different to access your essential wisdom. You don't need to master complex practices to connect with the sacred that pulses through every moment of your existence. Clarice knew that life is simplified and explained not through elaborate theories, but through quiet revelations that emerge when we stop complicating things and finally begin to see. She discovered that the greatest transformations often arrive wrapped in the most disconcerting simplicity: an egg, an orange, an instant of total presence with what has always been there, waiting for our true gaze. Jung reminds us that archetypal symbols speak directly to the unconscious, bypassing all our mental resistance. And the egg, this silent teacher of potential, continues to whisper its wisdom through its simple presence in your life, that within you resides an infinity waiting to hatch, not through effort or sophisticated techniques, but through the simple courage of being fully present with who you already are. The silent revolution that can reshape your entire destiny isn't waiting for a future discovery or an extraordinary experience. It's available now through the quality of presence you choose to bring to this moment. When you pause before the ordinary, a cup of coffee, a breath, the weight of your body in the chair, and allow it to exist in your consciousness without needing to transform it into something special, you are practicing the most powerful alchemy, the art of finding the extraordinary in the heart of the ordinary. Most people will never discover this secret because they will continue to seek complexity where simplicity resides, seeking transformation where it is already complete, chasing special experiences while ignoring the silent miracle of the present moment. But you have a unique opportunity now to choose the simplicity that heals over the complexity that distracts. Your next epiphany may be waiting in a banal gesture you make when you leave this conversation, a door you open, an object you touch, a breath you take. The question isn't whether the moment of revelation will arrive. It's always coming. The question is whether you'll be there to recognize it when it whispers your name through the simplicity you've been ignoring. Today, choose an ordinary object and let it teach you about yourself. Not as a spiritual exercise, not as a personal development technique, but as a genuine encounter with the mystery that inhabits the ordinary. And discover for yourself that the truth you seek isn't hidden somewhere complex. It's pulsing here, now, simple as an egg, obvious as breathing, revolutionary as the courage to finally stop complicating things and start simply being. If this glimpse of reality touched something in you, subscribe to the channel to continue exploring the territories where poetry and wisdom meet, where Clarice and other masters of consciousness continue to whisper the secrets that can transform a life through the simplest gateway: total presence with what has always been here waiting to be truly seen. The universe within you is waiting, and it is simpler and more extraordinary than you ever imagined.